Our presentation is on genetically modified salmon and whether or not this genetically modified organism is beneficial or harmful to humans. So we are raising the question, will genetically modified salmon save or destroy our planet? And based on the information that we provide for this presentation, you can decide.
What is a GMO? GMO stands for genetically modified organism. An organism is any individual living thing. This includes plants, animals, bacteria, and fungi, etc. In an organism that has been genetically modified, its DNA was altered or changed in some way that's usually intended to make the organism more efficient, productive, or better in some way. Some common examples of genetically modified organisms are corn, dairy products, and potatoes. How do you genetically modify an organism? There are 4 steps in the genetic modification process. Step 1 is performing modification itself by inserting a desired gene into the nucleus of a single-cell DNA. Step 2 is treating the cell with natural hormones to stimulate growth and development of the cell. Step 3 involves cell division, which allows for the divided cell to take on specialized functions with this newly inserted gene. Step 4 involves all of the new cells in the modified organism now containing the new inserted gene. After these 4 steps, this genetically modified cell acts as a normal cell does in the body. Claims and concerns of the public. Genetically modified organisms have brought up controversy about whether it's truly beneficial to humans and the environment. Some of the general concerns many consumers have is that this modification technology is threatening to the natural order of things, and it seems too artificial. Another general concern is that genetically modified organisms must be properly labeled in stores. And a more specific concern about genetically modified salmon is that many consumers have is that GM salmon has the potential to be beneficial, but it might have a larger potential to be harmful. And this risk concerns the public regarding the government's abilities to properly and safely regulate genetically modified salmon.
The benefits of GMO salmon. GMO salmon grows to market size in half the amount of time as conventional salmon. Aqua Advantage salmon contain a gene from the fast-growing Pacific Chinook salmon and a promoter sequence from the ocean pout, which allows the genetically engineered fish to grow year-round as opposed to seasonally. Also, the GMO salmon is said to have a heavy amount of omega-3, which has been associated with brain and heart health. How genetically engineered salmon impacts the environment. GMO salmon grow to market size with 25% less feed than wild salmon, thus conserving wild fish stocks. Scientists fear that GMO salmon will become an invasive species due to GMO salmon's ability to compete, persist, and reproduce in the natural ecosystems. Additionally, genetically engineered fish would compete with their wild counterparts for food and space and could potentially interbreed with them. They will also bring new diseases and cause changes to basic food webs and ecosystem processes that are difficult to anticipate. When might genetically engineered fish hit U.S. markets? Before I get into that specific answer, I'm just going to give some context. A third of global fish stocks are threatened by overfishing, and close to $22 billion worth of fish is imported annually from the Philippines to the U.S. Meanwhile, there are very unhealthy and unsustainable fishing practices being used in the Philippines, such as cyanide fishing and dynamite fishing. Cyanide fishing is basically when the fishermen put bleach on the coral and it basically forces the fish to leave their homes. And then dynamite fishing is when they set off dynamite, killing thousands of fish at a time. Aqua Advantage claims that they can help the problem of overfishing by supplying the demand for fish because of how much quicker their fish meet U.S. market size standards, as opposed to the wild fish. It takes a lot longer for them to grow. After Aqua Advantage's salmon underwent years of testing, the FDA cleared it in 2015, and was said to be just as safe and have the same nutritional value as conventional salmon, so there's really no reason it can't be on the shelves. And then Aqua Advantage salmon should hit the U.S. markets in the later part of 2020.
So we have a list of pros and cons for genetically modified salmon. First off are the pros. Since the global population of humans is constantly getting larger and larger, a reliable food source is needed. Especially now during the coronavirus pandemic, it is necessary that we look for new, reliable sources of food. Genetically modifying organisms like salmon can solve this issue. These salmon also grow at faster rates than normal salmon. Additionally, less resources are needed to be provided for genetically modified salmon because their appetites aren't as large. Not only does this also help the overfishing issue many countries deal with, but also reduces the amount of carbon emissions that enter the air. Fish farming with genetically modified salmon is environmentally and economically friendly. Now, here are the cons regarding genetically modified salmon. So hypothetically, if a genetically modified salmon were to enter the ecosystem of fresh, normal water salmon, disruptions would occur. Based on a study from Robert Devlin, if both genetically modified salmon and normal salmon were to be in the same environment, genetically modified salmon would disrupt the natural ecosystems due to their ability to reproduce faster. This would cause a shortage in food sources from extra salmon in the ecosystem. Also, with not that long of study, there are no known long-term results of consuming genetically modified salmon. Finally, the FDA does not require for genetically modified salmon to be labeled when sold. This can cause uncertainty in communities, especially because many individuals are against genetically modified organisms.
Thank you so much for tuning into our GMO salmon infographic.